Welcome to the Just Some BS podcast. Today we have Nate Bunty on. Nate, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. I'm excited to be here. This is the first time I've ever been interviewed on a podcast.
Well, get ready. It's going to be real. So, those of you not watching, I will make note of it. Behind him is a dry erase board and it says, "Insurance is fun!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. We will talk a little insurance, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today because we had breakfast and there were some interesting tidbits I also would like to bring into that with some of your media stuff. But well, the way I like to start is reading people's LinkedIn biographies or little snippets under their name because I feel like it captures kind of who you're about right now in the moment. So, providing health insurance solutions that keep employees healthy and control employees' costs of care. How does that make you feel? Does that nail it?
Yes, I think that it's a challenging thing to do both of those things, to make employees happy with their health insurance and to control the cost of care. There are solutions. There are solutions out there, and there are some. We just did a webinar today. There's a new solution from United Healthcare, which um, utilizes their data in a way that is beneficial to both an employer group and the employees. And it's just it's a neat. There's an app associated with it. It's called Surest. And so if you implement this plan, you go into the app and you say, "Oh, I've got knee pain," and it'll provide you with the in-network providers in your geographic area and the copayment, like your total out of pocket for that visit or that procedure right there. So you could be like, "Well, I want to go to Dr. Smith, and a knee replacement's going to cost $1,000, out of pocket, that's it." And there's a lot of data behind that copayment number that's good for the plan, and there's transparency to the member because then they know exactly what it's going to be. They're not going to be hit with something surprising after it's over. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That was just on top of mind. I feel like we were only going to talk a little bit of insurance, and here I'm going right into talking about a product.
No,
But
you're
it's
good.
really neat. We're kind of saying sort of almost like an Amazon of insurance plans. It's cool.
Well, it sounds to me like an AI chatbot that they loaded all of your really difficult, horrible language to read in all of those forms. You load it in so you can just ask questions, and it gives you back the answers you're looking for in layman's terms, so everybody can understand.
That's the way it functions, yes. And there's a tremendous amount of data. United Healthcare is the largest insurance company, or the largest health insurance company in the country, if not the world. So they have a lot of outcome data, not the outcome data, along with the actual costs, sort of merged together. So they want you to send you to the most rational um, choice through an incentive that everybody can understand, like a lower
Yep.
copayment. That's, no brainer for anybody. You don't need to know anything about insurance. You could think insurance is terrible, you know what I mean, and never really want to go to the doctor. But if you know you have knee pain, or you're having chest pains, or you're having back pain, or you have a headache that won't go away, you can put that in there and they can point you to the provider that's going to make the most sense for that ailment and then tell you how much it's going to cost to go there. And that type
Yeah.
of solution, something simple. I almost hate to use the word elegant in regards to insurance, but from a design perspective, if you're thinking about UX, that is so simple, and there's a lot behind it that nobody cares about. You know what I mean? In the real world, on the boots on the ground, the people in the street. Um, but it seems like a good way to go, and
Well,
it helps you contain costs for the employer and be transparent and contain costs for the member. And that's like a win-win situation, essentially. And I
yeah,
like stuff like that. That's where we want to be, right? In anything that we're doing.
I would even add a fourth win to that because like the key is prevention. So it's getting people to the doctor. So if you're lowering the annoyance of entry to
Right.
find the right person, because as soon as you go to the first person, it turns out they reference you to someone else. You're very annoyed and you end up not going to the second person. So if you're cutting all of that out, it's super clear and it's also cheaper because you have the right solution the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use it a lot more often. And it's easy to understand. All you have to do is ask questions.
Exactly. Yeah, I think one of their barriers is people who are not, I don't know, sometimes you get employer groups where they feel like they're not technically sophisticated, even though it's pretty simple. You can scan the QR code. And I said it's an app, it's actually a website, but you can scan the QR code, get into that portal, and and just go from there. But it's something that I think is probably ahead of its time, and there's going to be trend lines towards simple solutions to deliver care like that,
Yeah,
just like
actually,
direct primary care.
I have something similar, obviously without the data portion, but really to load in uh, employee handbook, employee benefits, all the language that goes with all of that, vacation, you name it. So somebody could go essentially internally on our intranet, go to this bot, ask any questions about time off, about when to come in, about the holiday pay, you name it, anything that's in the handbook, and it'll just spit you back exactly what the verbiage is because you allowed it to kind of give it the Bible.
Right. So that, yeah, that's a custom chatbot that you made for your employees that acts as like a member of your HR team.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
that's awesome.
just
And it's 24 hours a day. And, whenever the employee's having that question, they can have an answer. They don't have to wait for anybody to get back. It's not a string of emails. That's
yeah.
that's pretty cool. How do you deliver that to the employees? Is it on your intranet, or is it some?
Well, I didn't pull the trigger on it yet. I actually have the SOW in my email from my AI guy who I always use for everything. And actually, I just talked to him today for a friend, actually Dan Sod. I was on a call and he was like, "I'll get that over to you." And there are actually a lot of people are going that direction just to help HR get away from the small, like asking all those questions that happen all the time around benefits and all of that stuff. That scales that away, so then HR can actually focus on like deeper meaning things, right? So it gets some of the trivial stuff out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we like to help people with in our at our agency at Univest is taking some of those benefits questions. We have an advocate that folks can call us instead of calling HR when they have a question about a provider or why did I get this bill or something
Yep.
along those lines. It makes more sense for, if you had a question about your auto insurance, you wouldn't call HR, or, you know what I mean? Or you wouldn't call somebody without an insurance license. So it just makes sense for the first point of contact for those employees to be someone in our agency as opposed to somebody at the employer.
Yep. Totally agree. So I want to pivot and get a little personal.
Yep.
For my first actual question, since you wanted to dive right into insurance right away.
Well, yeah. Well, you went to the LinkedIn. If you had gone to my Facebook profile, then maybe it would have been a little bit different, I guess.
I don't live on. I think I have 4 friends on Facebook.
Okay.
You've had multiple open heart surgeries as a child. Take us back. What's the first time you remember realizing your life might not look like everyone else's?
Well, so I think the earliest memory that I have, like even when I was a kid and I would go back and think about my earliest memory, was me being wheeled down a hospital hallway
Mm,
in essentially a crib, standing in a crib, going down to an operating room. My mom was walking down with me, and then I kind of remember, I believe, being gassed to sleep. It sounds terrible, but that's how they calm you down with
yeah.
the gas before they actually put you under for surgery. But probably when I realized I wasn't like everybody else, I mean, it's probably all my life. I had, for as long as I can remember, I had what we called a zipper. Like I had open heart surgery, so I have a scar that runs down my chest, and I had that forever. And none of my friends had that. I mean, how many
Mm,
kids have open heart surgery?
yeah.
And uh, but maybe when it became apparent to everybody else, because you don't want to run around with no shirt on at school, was when I got last rites at school. I went to Catholic school, and I was having open heart surgery in third grade, and we did it's anointing of the sick, but it used to be called last rites. It's extreme unction. It's one of the sacraments, and we did that in my classroom the day before I went out because I was going to be gone the rest of the school year. It was, I believe in May that I had that surgery. So um, that's probably when it sort of really hit home for everybody around me in my day to day classroom life and stuff like that.
Did that cause any, like, were you self-conscious about any of that, or did it shut you down at all, or did you approach social situations differently because of any of that?
Good question. I don't think so. I
Hmm.
think, well, so let's put it this way. I always had a lot of like limitations. You've been in the same room with me. Um, I am not a small person, right? So I'm
You're a
built
big
kind
guy.
of like a linebacker. And
A refrigerator. Yeah.
yeah, right. And and I was always larger, and actually my kids now are taller and a little bit broader. The Bunty genes, I guess, have are strong. And to quote a line I'm pretty sure from Game of Thrones, at least the book, the first book. But and I could never do anything physical really, because of the coarctation of the aorta that I had.
Mm.
My blood pressure has always been elevated, and there's nothing I could do to get it down. I never really had a lot of cardiovascular stamina, and now, my parents told me when I was a kid that because I had had open heart surgery, that my rib cage was held together by wires, which there are wires holding that held my rib cage, but cartilage grows back. You know what I mean? And I didn't know this when I was a kid. What they didn't want to tell me was that the procedure that I had had to fix that coarctation, I'm part of the first generation of people that had that surgery,
Get
and they
out.
didn't know if I like would have slid into for like second or thrown myself down on on a sled or played football or something along those lines. They didn't know if that repair in my aorta, like inches away from my heart, where all of my blood was flowing out of my heart, would pop. And if that happened, obviously, you're dead before you hit the ground because all your blood's no longer going to the rest of your body,
Yeah.
like your lungs and other vital organs. It's done. So that it was like a big limiting factor, probably more so in high school, I would say, than in grade school. Like I wanted to wrestle and they said no. I always knew I couldn't do a lot of other stuff. And then I couldn't like run or do track or whatever because I had the blood pressure issue, which I didn't get medication until I was in my 30s for that. So
Wow.
I don't know that they had beta blockers in the late 80s or early 90s, you know what I mean? Or I don't know if they would have given beta blockers to a kid back then. So, but a beta blocker really changed my ability to potentially ride a bike for long periods of time, and do some of those other cardiovascular
Yeah.
exercises.
So strenuous based on cardiovascular. So what were your
Over a long
hobbies?
period of time, I got winded very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a kid, since you couldn't play sports, what were you into?
Comic books, Dungeons and Dragons, Nintendo, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Things that didn't require a lot of running around.
What was your
So
favorite Nintendo game?
probably Super Mario Brothers, I guess, which just seems like a very vanilla answer,
Yeah.
but it's the one that I can remember playing the most.
Okay.
Because you say, but not just Super Mario, but like Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
like game changing. You know what I mean? When Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, that was
Yeah.
amazing.
There
And
was
then,
like 3D traps in like a 2D world. It was crazy.
right, it was very well done. Actually, you could play those on Switch now. Like you can get a subscription and play classic Nintendo games,
Yeah.
and it's still fun to go in and play stuff like that. And actually, Dig Dug, Rampage, even Pac-Man, those were all games that I would play both at the arcade or at the pool that we would go to. They had Rampage, I remember in particular, they had that there. And so when it was on Nintendo and you could play it whenever you wanted, you have to pop a quarter in or whatever. This is like awesome. You know what I mean? Like on demand. It's amazing. It's kind of like streaming TV now. I can just watch this TV whenever I want to. So
yeah. Since you had to revert to those types of things, I'm assuming your parents probably didn't give you a bunch of slack about staying in all the time, like in the house instead of going.
No, and when so I grew up on a rural road just outside of Columbia that didn't really have, you couldn't walk a neighborhood there. When we got to a walkable neighborhood, I mean, I did do some of the stuff where you just be out, but most of it was, and I had a paper route actually. So yeah, I had a paper route, and I walked that. Again, I couldn't. I still can't really run. I hate running. Running is terrible. I'm not. I tried to be a runner at one point. I was like, oh, I could probably do this now, but my and it's probably mental. But as soon as I start running, my entire body, like every molecule of my body, is screaming like, just stop. This is not for you. Yeah, lift weights or go for like I've gone for really long walks and stuff like that, at a decent clip, but don't run. Just stop. So
that's amazing.
No, I think I got babied. I'm in the middle child, but I think I got babied to a certain extent because of, I was born with blue feet, and the doctors told my parents they weren't sure if I was going to live. So I was allowed to do kind of whatever I wanted. You know what I mean? Like I was spoiled.
So going through something pretty intense as a kid. Now, obviously, you maybe didn't know the extremes of it, but it was obviously quite pretty extreme for a child. You remember being rolled through the hospital, having open heart surgery. Did that change the way you kind of look at challenges as an adult, going through some of that harder stuff as a child?
So I think for sure that I don't take stuff nearly as seriously as maybe other
Mm.
people do. You know what I mean? Because I've been, we talk about open heart surgery when I was in third grade. For whatever reason, I was in the room with the doctor when he was talking about like side effects or potential outcomes, and he just said you could die. And so when you're 9 years old or about that, when you're going in and you're going to be put under and you might never wake up, that is actually I mean, my parents were pretty confident. They're like, don't worry about it too much. So I don't even know that I was that worried about it when I was a kid. But even now, when things look fairly bleak, it's most of the problems that I've had weren't going to kill me. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So, um, you know, ironically though, too, that was the side effect of not doing the surgery was it was like you could die if you did the surgery. You will die if you don't do the surgery. So you're sort of
Oh yeah.
backed into a corner. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you have a healthy relationship with like mortality then because of that?
Yeah, and that is because of, I mean, I'm a fairly religious person as well.
Mm.
So that one of the things that's consistently spoken about in the Bible is don't be afraid. Be not afraid. That's like the first word that an angel usually says when they show up. Some people say it's because they're terrifying looking. That's, they've got to say that. But, if you actually read the descriptions of the angels in the Old Testament, they're like got eyes on their wings and all this other crazy stuff. But, the, they weren't the only ones. A lot of the popes and things like that have said that too. Be not afraid. Don't be afraid. You're in good hands. And I witnessed that, essentially in my life. And so the proof is kind of in the pudding. Doing all right. I've got a lovely wife and two great kids and a solid career, despite the fact that the first, I guess, 9 to 12 years were touch and go in some of those
Mm.
from some of those things.
Do you remember a moment where like you had a mindset shift that you kind of switched to like, okay, I not even it's not even really a second chance. I don't even know what right words to say, but you're just like, I'm going to make the most of every possibility, I can run into.
So I think I've been thinking about this, and I think, the condition sort of held me back. I feel like it held me back up through high school.
Mm.
And when I went to college, I think I decided I was going to forget about all that and not let it hold me back at all, as you know what I mean, as much as possible. Like I went through in my 20s, I would say I used to go to the cardiologist when I was a kid once a year. And once I got to college, I fell out of that habit. And I participated in a lot of the activities that a lot of my peers were participating in, stuff that I didn't do in high school. And it's sort of a rebellion
Yeah,
against
sure.
sort of the stricter upbringing, not just because I went to Catholic school and things like that. And I got out, I grew my hair long and listened to Marilyn Manson and did other, you know what I mean? Like,
I love this, Nate.
yeah. So the long hair only lasted for about 9 months. It is way harder to maintain than you think when you had short hair all your life and you're like, I'm growing my hair up, like, the Metallica and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And uh, and then you actually live with hair that's longer, and you're like, this is not so much fun.
This is hot.
It hot and blows around when the windows are open in the car, and you gotta like comb it and stuff like that. As long as not comb it, brush it. Which, if you have knots and things, then all of a sudden you're pulling it out. Yeah, I just when I finally caved to my mom, like asked, like you should get your hair cut, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna give in. It was a way better experience having short hair again.
It's
And
freeing.
how it is right now, I just went to the barber yesterday. How I have it right now is pretty much how it's been since 1998 when I gave up on long hair after only starting in '97. So, but yeah, my college years were sort of rebellious, and that was I'm not going to allow this to hold me back anymore. And I think when I got a little older and wiser, that was when I sort of realized, like, oh, my perspective, like the fact that I'm relatively easygoing and don't take things, I look at challenges and problems and think of ways to get over them or overcome them, not so much that they're holding me back as much, because I have had situations where there was no choice. You know what I mean? Like I said, you didn't really have a choice. You got to fix this or check out, essentially. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And nothing in my life has been that severe since then. And it's really hard for, major health crises are the only situations really that become that dire, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
At
So
least for, unless you're in war or something, you know what I
yeah.
mean? So,
I mean, the lessons you took then from your own health journey, because I would say, especially men, when we're usually healthy, you don't have to go to the doctor. And then as you get older, you have to start going and getting checkups and going yearly and getting physicals. It's just like, all right, you keep putting it off. How do you apply kind of your journey? And when you're talking to employees kind of about their own employee benefits and probably pulling on some of that real world experience?
well, the importance of maintenance and
Mm.
doing that doing that annual physical is not even as applicable to me. I've always been sort of forced to it. I mean, before I got married, my wife was like, "You gotta go to the doctor." You know, you know what I mean? Like, so I started going to the doctor again. Actually, I have a cardiologist at Hershey Medical Center that specializes on people like me who are part of that first generation of folks who had this defect and were able to live relatively normal lives.
Yeah.
And he had told me when I first started going back, because I get it now, I get an MRI or a CAT scan every 5 years to look at my blood vessels. He's like, well, you're never gonna have like a surprise heart attack because we look at all this stuff. You know what I mean? But so I'm lucky to a certain extent in that regards,
Sure.
is that a widowmaker's not gonna surprise me one of these days. A lot of other guys, they think they are okay. They never get their blood work done. They generally feel all right. Or even if they don't feel okay, they might feel a little bit like crap, but they're men, so they're not going to complain about it. And they're just
Yep.
going to, just going to plow through instead of trying to get some help. So, really, there are other people's stories that we have that are a little bit more applicable to why you need to check in, even if you feel pretty good. One is the local guy here was feeling kind of ill for a long time, and then he didn't go to. Finally went to the doctor when he started to turn a little yellow. It turned out he had liver cancer, and
Oh,
I mean,
jeez.
unfortunately, he didn't. I mean, he didn't live. My own my my wife's stepfather, I think he felt okay. On Christmas Eve in 2020 of all years, he went to the doctor or he went to the hospital because he turned yellow. He had pancreatic cancer. Now, fortunately, he's still with us and he's still going. He beat pancreatic cancer, which is amazing. But it's kind of you know, the miracle of modern medicine. Part of it's perhaps his stubbornness and his will to a certain extent. Although you can't apply all of that because I'm sure lots of people who get cancer have the will to live. They don't want
Sure.
to pass on. They just have no choice. Some of it's luck or fate, God being involved. And then modern medicine, because I had a revolutionary surgery when I was 3 days old. That the correction to the coarctation in my heart or my aorta was something that the gentleman who did that, he invented that procedure within, 5 years of me being born or something along those lines.
That's so
Uh,
crazy.
the my wife's stepfather had a Whipple procedure, which is like basically where they kind of chop up your pancreas and then rewire everything. That's revolutionary. It's not always successful, and and I want to say they did it orthoscopically. Oh no, no, maybe not. I'm not sure. But even just if you've ever seen orthoscopic surgery, like just working on knees and things like that, it's just kind of amazing. They go into little robotics and can repair things. It's entirely possible. I have to ask. Actually, I did run into somebody whose daughter had a coarctation that was repaired within the last 10 years. And I wonder if they did that orthoscopically because I feel like you wouldn't necessarily, well, I don't know. But it's just amazing. We have an amazing medical system here in the United States and in the Mid Atlantic region where we're both located. I
Yeah.
mean, we got Johns Hopkins, University of Pennsylvania, University of Pittsburgh. I'm missing up. There's
Hershey Medical.
it's ridiculous. Yeah. Hershey Medical Center. We are extremely blessed in this area to have like a wide variety of some of the top medical systems in the world right
Yep.
here. So yeah. So as you can see, I'm passionate and lose my train of thought. I'm not even sure where I was going with that. We're very lucky, and navigating it can be difficult. Um, and it all starts with, again, if you yeah, the first thing that came to my mind, if you see something, say something. That's not really, but if you feel something, do something about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No,
And even
totally
if you
agree.
don't, like so a lot of the plans have wellness benefits where they encourage you to, well, and the physical is free every year for every plan. Go get blood work done. We've had cases where someone who is a runner, they're three brothers, right? Two of them are a little bit stocky, and the third one's sort of tall and skinny, and he makes a little bit of fun of the other guys because he's in great shape. He's the one with huge cholesterol and bad markers for his for having a heart attack.
Yeah.
So you never know. It's some of it is genetic. You know what I mean? You can't really control it, and you know it could just be unpredictable.
Yeah. Do you know if you are in any medical books by name because you were one of like the very first people?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know. So the surgeon, I don't know how to spell it, but Dr. Walthausen from Hershey Medical Center was he's definitely in medical books, and I think he might even have a wiki, like a
Oh,
Wikipedia page.
nice.
Yeah.
That's sick.
So because he, like I said, he had been based at Hershey Medical Center. I was born in Lancaster General. That's sort of like, not to throw shade on Lancaster General, I guess, but that was like what my parents would always say when I was a kid. At Lancaster General, they didn't know what to do with you, so we took you up to Hershey Medical and they fixed you. So, but yeah, no, Dr. Walthausen, I'm pretty sure there's something named after him up there too. If it's like a wing or something, or maybe the cardiology department or something along those lines.
So
Yeah.
next I want to switch a little bit to kind of gym sessions over tattoos. You mentioned body modification in college and how lifting eventually beat them all. What is it about resistance training and macro tracking that clicked for you? And what do you do? What do you wish more people understood about it?
So I didn't know anything about macros like protein, carbohydrates, and fats until I was 41 or 42 years old. And I think this is one of the areas where, um, general practitioners and maybe the medical establishment has failed a little bit. And it may not be, their focus was elsewhere. You know what I mean? A lot of times we're focused on fixing things rather than doing preventative. But, yeah, I have some tattoos, and there were piercings that are no longer in my body that were part of the rebellion in college. You have to get kind of up close in order to be able to see the scars. But um, all of that was not nearly as satisfying as being able to like lose fat and build muscle through weight training and eating more protein. You don't even have to necessarily eat less, but if you change if you think of like three sort of beakers, each filled with a certain amount of calories. If you shift some of those calories from carbohydrates and fats to protein, like chicken, Greek yogurt's a great example. Like a Greek yogurt is extremely filling, even though it's only like 11 ounces in a little cup, and it's 20 grams of protein. And it's really simple too. And you don't need an app necessarily, although it helps. You do it on a spreadsheet or just you can keep it simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It's not really super complicated. It just takes a little bit of vigilance. And the change in your mood and the change in the way your clothes feel and you might not even weigh a ton less. But you'll just feel a lot better. And yeah, did I answer the question there or
No,
did I go off on a tangent?
No, you're good. And it's so timely because I'm actually going through this right now. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why I'm really happy. So I was pretty ignorant to food as well. So luckily, Lexi's boyfriend, Jake's big into fitness and he's been helping me through explaining all this stuff, proteins and everything like that, telling me how many proteins I need to get. So I'm not weaning away while I'm cutting other things and stuff like that. And I've been really big into running since we got back from vacation. Don't know why I actually hate it, but it's a good time to like listen to audiobooks and things like that where I can kind of a habit stack. We just finished Atomic Habits at our book club at work. So like
Okay.
that's very prevalent for me too. So I've been tracking my food and tracking my weight and everything like that every single day in a spreadsheet. But what was always really annoying to me was having to look things up for calories for food, right? Like if I didn't eat the same things or it didn't say it on a box, I didn't know how to calculate that.
Hmm.
Well, for all of you out there who have the same issue with that whole app thing, I just now take a picture of my food. I have an open chat in ChatGPT and I say, based on this picture, how many calories roughly is this food? And it'll say, well, it looks like it's this, this, and this. Can you validate this? How much sauce did you use? Blah, 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 blah. And it
Hmm.
gives me plus or minus 25 calories. And I'm like, this is close enough. It gets me
Yeah.
within my range plus my deficit for exercising. And like it has made this experience so much better for me because I don't have to type all this different crap into an app
Hmm.
to figure out. And then I'm like, well, I don't even know if I'm right anyway. And then I get annoyed.
So the app that I've used has been the Fitbit app. They actually I eat out way more than maybe I should, but I guess whatever. We eat a lot. We eat out a lot, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot of restaurants
Mm.
in the Fitbit app. So if you go to Moe's, for example, and you build a burrito, you can put all the different things that you told them to put into it, and it gives you, again, it's not going to be exact. This is the other thing about fitness. Nothing is super precise, like or about nutrition. Um, and I've heard more than once, not that I'm an expert or anything, but even the nutritionists and the like, everything is kind of not a guessing game, I guess, but it's certainly not an exact science. Let's put it that. They practice medicine. You know what I mean? They're always practicing. So um, and I think this is particularly applicable to nutrition science and how we understand metabolism, and also the uniqueness of how our bodies can work. You know what I mean? Like, not every 250-pound dude is going to be the same 250 pounds. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and it's hard to generalize. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Except for there's only one there a couple of basic rules. You eat more protein, you know, even if you keep the calories the same, things will work out better for you. And if you lift weights, things will work out better for you because you'll have the protein to synthesize some more muscle. You'll generate more lean body mass, and that will kind of eat up the fat mass that you have.
Yeah, the second part of that you mentioned about energy, and that's the way the one. Like, I'm so glad I'm doing this because I'm doing my half shop, half office all summer long when it's super super hot. So I'm in the
Mhm.
shop this week, and today particularly, I was doing a very repetitive task, but it's something that another person who's more highly skilled in the shop because I'm not highly skilled. I'm out there as free labor. So I was like, well,
Mhm.
I'll do it because I'm technically free to the job, charging the job. I know I'm not free to the
Right.
company, but I also don't have the skills you do to go. You can go do something that's way more valuable for the company, and I'll do this mundane thing since I'm out here anyway. But like, it was a lot, and I had to move. I didn't even eat lunch. I just kept working through because I wanted to get it done before I had a meeting this afternoon. But like, if I wouldn't be training my body the way I am with the food and the way I'm doing it, I wouldn't be able to get through some of these like 91-degree days when I'm doing very physical labor in some of these. And
Mhm.
it's like, man, like I'm beat today, but like I would be way tired or I would be struggling way more if I wasn't kind of on this, I'm like 4 weeks in now of like this repetition of trying to do better on all those fronts.
Are you lifting any weights, or are you just doing the running?
No, I am. Yeah, I'm trying to lift twice. I'm supposed to be lifting 3 times a week, but I'm really so into running right now, and I don't want that to go away. But yes, I have lifting routines that I'm doing either in my basement. But sometimes it'll just be 100 push-ups a day because that's what I have time
Yeah.
for.
Well,
But
that's body. That's a body weight. It's like a calisthenic exercise. For example, if you're listening to this and you're saying, I don't want to go to the gym, there are a couple of quick things that you can do, like push-ups, body weight squats,
yep,
lunges.
yep,
Some of those things, particularly if you're getting your core and the lower body working and doing some of that stuff, those are big muscles, and getting them to engage and break down just a little bit so that they'll build back up, you'll notice a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I never go to the gym. So when I do work out, it's in our basement because I bought weights and stuff because I can't stand the gym. I never want to go back. So yeah, a lot of that's very body weight. And then I have the turn dial, where I
Right.
can change the weight on the actual. So I pretty much told Jake, Lexi's boyfriend, I was like, I'm never going to the gym. It's got to be under 45 minutes and it's got to be done with either free weights or bands. Like that's what you got. Make me my workouts. And he
Right.
does. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's again, it doesn't need to be complicated. That
No,
people, if you're not looking to turn into yourself into like some muscle bound, bodybuilder, it can be very simple.
agreed.
And you could, I don't know, my mom used to use soup cans. You know what I mean?
Oh, brilliant.
You know what I mean? Like, so it could just be stuff around the house. One of the other things that some folks I've seen do in Colombia actually is I think it's called a farmer carry, where you just carry something kind of heavy on one side and you walk around
Yep.
and you like walk around the neighborhood.
Yep.
And that is resistance training. It's going to be low intensity. You don't have to do high intensity, particularly if you're just beginning. And um, you know, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. You
Yep.
haven't done anything and you start doing that, it's going to be a big difference.
Yeah. Ed, do you know Ed from Link? Oh my God, why can I not think of his last name right now?
I was going to say that I know an
I know
Ed.
tons of Eds. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Hold on. He's going to be so mad at me. But Ed Hanko from Moser Roofing, do you know him?
I think we're connected on LinkedIn, but I don't think I've met him
That's
in person.
That's fine. Anyway, when he was on the podcast, he talked about how he's into rucking. So I bought actually a
Right.
ruck pack, and like even that, just walking has made a huge difference for
Right.
lower body. And so even something as little, if you're really into walking, you don't want to run, that's fine. Just add a 25-pound pack to a backpack, or
Mhm.
throw in some magazines or whatever, a
Right.
jug of water. It because you're engaging your core because you're trying to balance that weight back and forth. It's
Right.
completely different.
And keep good posture while you're doing that. Like make sure you're standing up straight
Yep.
while you're walking, and because that engages all your back muscles, which are also really large muscles that get underused a lot.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, it's just tiny things. And Atomic Habits has made me realize, like, sometimes even if it's just like, I'll even save, like, I won't work out on a Saturday, but I'll do a ton of yard work. Like, I
Hmm.
know I'm getting physical labor with the raking, picking up sticks, you name it, blah, 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 blah. Just walking around my yard weed whacking for an hour, holding that
Right.
thing. Yeah, it's almost like the farmer's carry.
So one of the things I would say about lifting weights and gaming, because I know you said gaming makes you, you can sort of gamify it. And I have all my stuff because you want progressive overload, right? So you want to continue going up in weight.
Yep.
If you're going to the gym or if you have weights and stuff like that, you're not using soup cans. But so that I can track to see how many extra pounds of total volume I've got. You know what I mean? Then you can give yourself a little reward. And that's how, again, you can keep the challenge going and you
Correct.
can keep it going. And it doesn't have to be big steps. It's, not sure if it is Atomic Habits or the compound effect. It was another little changes made frequently over time turn into big results at the end
100%.
of the road, or when hitting your goals at the end of it, you're gonna be like, I can't believe I'm here, I'm deadlifting 250 pounds. I started with like 75 pounds a year
Yeah.
or two ago, or whatever it was.
The biggest thing I took away from that Atomic Habits book was sometimes it's just showing up for one thing. Like maybe today I don't feel like doing anything or I don't have time, but maybe you just do 5 push-ups. You could still check mark that you did something, you showed up and you
Right.
were there. And the other thing it says, don't ever miss 2 days in a row. It's okay if you had a terrible day and you had to skip your to-dos or your habits you want to work on. Don't do it 2 days in a row. And I've been really applying those things in these tiny incremental changes. And you're right. 4 or 5 weeks later, you're like, I feel amazing. My pants fit way different, right? And you're already starting that journey, but you got to get over that initial like crescendo of like, oh, this is horrible.
Right. Well, after a certain period of time, it just becomes part of your day, and then you
Correct.
miss it if you didn't do it.
Correct. I
Yeah.
never thought I'd actually look forward to running, but I'm into that point now because I hated it. And then finally one day I just said, I'm going to be a runner. That's what I'm going
Yeah,
to
I'm not capable of doing that, as we went over earlier. I tried. I tried. And I even did the things you know, walking for long period of time at roughly 3.5 to 4 miles per hour is no problem for me. But as soon as I start jogging And I want to say I'm not
Mhm.
even going that much faster. It's just something, and it's probably mental. And I've never had, I guess, the gumption to be like, I'm going to be a runner.
Yeah.
Because if I said that to myself, it was only half-hearted because as soon as I started doing it, like you said, every fiber of my being was like, you're not a runner. You can't do it. You know, you're not going to. But
So I want
yeah,
to
no,
go ahead.
doing other stuff is, and that's the other, like I could get on an elliptical machine and
Mm.
go at what they say is like 6 miles an hour, like for 45 minutes or an hour, just go doing that. But if I was off of the machine trying to go 6 miles an hour, like on my feet on the trail out here in Colombia, yeah. So it's just,
I wonder if it's the impact.
I guess, I don't know. I just feel all
Interesting.
the chub in my body flying up and down. I'm like, I don't like that either. So you're like, it'll be gone in a couple weeks if you just keep doing this. I'm like, I don't know. So
Doesn't seem worth it.
yeah, yeah.
So
Just get on the
completely,
elliptical. It doesn't do the. I don't jiggle nearly as much on the elliptical.
I want to pivot hard and talk about GLP-1 drugs and their explosion.
Okay.
So weight and wellness,
Mhm.
there's a battle with weight and now fitness focus. What's your honest take on the current fascination with kind of semaglutide and similar medications?
Sure. So I flip flop a little bit. Sometimes I'm like, particularly while I'm in the gym and like there's a Wegovy commercial on or something along those lines. You know, because there's monitors there. I'm like, all you need to do is work out. You know what I mean? But I think that there are some cases where that is necessary,
Mm.
or it's going to be the sort of like the way to sort of skip the line a little bit in extreme obesity cases. I think the other thing is that that is like a standard dose from what I understand. And if you get it compounded, you can have it more customized for your body. And that the results from that have been better. I've seen some like individual testimonials on that in Facebook and on LinkedIn actually. So I think compounding is probably better. Compounding's not getting as much press because like GLP-1s, the actual hormone that is created, and again, I'm not really an expert. I know a decent amount about it, but I don't know a ton. But that actual enzyme or peptide has been around for like 40 years. So the
Mm.
actual drug itself, it's almost like penicillin. You know, it's not patented. It's the time release nature of the drug where it's an injection once a week or once a month instead of daily, I believe. And also the kind of like the EpiPen, it's the actual injection device that you're using. Those are the things that are patented about that medication. So I think that in a perfect world it'd be a lot more affordable, um, and we'd be able to. I guess people compound them now because the demand is so high that they're not readily available. I'm also a little bit skeptical about long-term use. You don't necessarily want to be the test subject, I guess. And the other thing, although I guess again, if
Says
you're
one of the
more than
first open heart surgeries.
right, right. Well, all right. So that is, that was a mechanical repair.
Mm.
That's like testing a medical device or something
Yep.
along those lines. That it's a little bit different, I would think, than
Yeah,
a
I'm with you.
medication that if in order to get it to work, you're gonna have to be on for the rest of your life. Because as soon as you stop using it, again, from what I understand, then you can just gain the weight back because what it does is, again, from what I understand, is it suppresses your appetite and makes you feel um, more satisfied. I've also heard that it suppresses other appetites as well and can affect your mood and some other things. So there's some side effects that aren't talked about a ton in the press, in addition to nausea and some other like quality of life issues that can arise from it. So it's not perfect for everybody. I don't think that it's a panacea. Whenever there have been other drugs that people have thought were panaceas, um, I think the problem with obesity in America is cultural and the food supply.
Mm.
But beyond beyond that, I don't even know how to. I think people are too sedentary. Saying from a kid that played video games all his life in the morning, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're a little too sedentary, and the food's there's something up with the food as well. and I'm not 100% sure what it is, but it's definitely not the same food, I think, necessarily than when I was a kid. I
Mm.
was just talking about like little Debbie's oatmeal pies. When I was a kid, I'm pretty sure that was a much simpler list of ingredients when I was a kid than it is right now, and it was bigger. You know what I mean? Like, because they call it shrinkflation or whatever, where they made things smaller. Um, yeah, so and I'm just kind of side adding. I don't want to say anything that's gonna get me into trouble, I guess. But
You're good.
yeah, I think that yeah, we'll see. Jury's out,
Jury's out.
and
I agree.
yeah, and yeah, just whenever a drug company or anybody comes out with a drug in particular, it's going to fix your problems. It seems like that's not true
Yeah.
in the long run.
The magic pill,
So
right?
right. Um, but it definitely has been effective for some people. And you don't want to say you don't want to necessarily take that away from them. But I wonder, I've heard when you go on a GLP-1, in addition to prescribing the GLP-1, because one of the major problems with it is that it'll cause you to eat less. And then if you don't eat more protein, you'll lose not just fat, but you'll lose lean body mass. So what they actually prescribe a higher protein diet and some resistance training along with the GLP-1. And it's kind of like going back to the data set that we were talking about right in the beginning with the surest thing, is that they sort of, if you have a knee pain and you go right to a knee replacement without doing physical therapy, wait, did you need the knee replacement or could physical therapy have gotten it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're kind of putting the cart before the horse to a certain extent by putting somebody on a lifetime of drugs before trying to get them into that habit, which as we've talked about,
I
if you
love that
can get into the
analogy.
habit, it
Hmm.
becomes, a fun part of your day.
Yeah. No, love that. How has becoming a father reframed your relationship with your health? What parts of your journey do you hope your children never have to experience, and what parts do you hope they do inherit?
Well, my son, who looks a lot like me, who looked a lot more like me when he was younger, because we both, you know, when I got to be his age now, he's going to go into high school. I was maybe as tall, but I was a lot chubbier. So he is the eating more protein and doing some physical activity has been something that I've been trying to since I learned it. I figure I better tell them because I wish I had known it when I was a kid. And so being physically active, having some awareness of the basic building blocks of what your diet should look like have
Mm.
been some things that I've been trying to instill in them. And then so part of not being able to do physical activity when I was and sports and stuff like that when I was a kid, my son is very gifted in these areas. I was like, I wonder if he got that from me, and I was just never able to use it. You know what I mean? Like,
That's so interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So because he's a great baseball player, he's a pretty good golfer, and he's a black belt in Taekwondo.
Let's
Um,
go.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. He's not
I,
really into football, so I don't know. But he'd be more of a quarterback. So far, he doesn't have the body mass necessarily to be a linebacker, but he's catching up on me. I'm a little over 6 feet tall, and he is 5'9" and a quarter, as we learned at his PIAA physical that he just took.
are
So
you really enjoying watching him in sports because you weren't able to at his age?
absolutely. Yes, I'm glad that obviously they haven't had that challenge that I had of being restricted from anything. I mean, the world is their oyster. They can do whatever they want. And, I've been involved with baseball, even though I didn't play when I was a kid, and I wasn't the best assistant coach, but I was there. You know what I mean? I helped out. I could catch. I could not hit a pop up for a practice, but I could catch it when they come back in, so that the coach hitting pop ups didn't have to worry about the balls flying at them. You know what I mean? Yes, it's been great being able to see them progress. Giving them the opportunity to be involved in sports, and walking along when they play golf.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's a joy that's hard to describe. I'm not that poetic, but it's definitely very fulfilling.
Mm.
And one of the best parts of being an adult is having kids and seeing them change over time. Although sometimes you miss the snuggles and the being able to toss them around like they're rag dolls when they're little, and now obviously I have a 5'9" teenager. I think I'm still stronger than him, but I definitely can't pick him up and toss him around. And my daughter was never really into that. So, but she's like one of the tallest girls in her class. She's also one of the youngest because she's an August birthday and she didn't like hold back a year. So yeah, yeah, they're gifted in many ways that I am not, or at least I'm not 100% sure. So.
That's amazing. So back to employee benefits. What's a conversation you wish employers would have that, but we as employers think we know the best thing to talk to our employees about or to be concerned about? What are things you're often educating employers on around employee benefits?
The different like the innovations that are coming out in healthcare and in the ways that it can be structured, whether it's reference-based pricing or direct primary care, which is another thing that I'm a huge advocate for. Actually, Penn Medicine in Lancaster, Lebanon, and the Philadelphia area, they have these HealthWorks locations that are really cool. There are other smaller providers. I'm not sure if you're familiar with direct primary care, but it's a subscription model where you pay a flat monthly fee, and then the employee or the member, because there are some doctors that create these clinics, and you can just call them privately, sign up, you pay, and you can schedule. It's unlimited number of visits per month. They take more time. It's more of like an old black bag type of service. The one provided at HealthWorks, the shortest appointment that you could schedule is 45 minutes. So your provider can really have a conversation with you
Wow.
um, about nutrition. Or I know there are some members there that have used that as sort of like a weight loss consulting where they could go
Yeah.
in twice a month and go over their food logs, go over their exercise logs with a physician's assistant or an MD and talk about what they're doing and how, and then get measurements of both their blood and their height and weight stuff. I guess height wouldn't really be an issue. That's more for kids, but their weight,
Yeah.
and maybe get
That's
an idea
brilliant.
of what their body fat is. And the blood work is included. Basic prescriptions are included. So this membership covers a lot. And that, one of the things that we don't necessarily always understand as business owners and in insurance is the barrier to entry that even a 25 or a 30 or a $50 copay can be to folks. When we're talking about guys not really being excited to go see the doctor, well, nobody's ever really that excited to go see the doctor. You know what I mean? And for some folks, particularly if you think you need to see a specialist and it might be a $50 or $75, maybe even $100, or you have a high deductible health plan, maybe you have an HSA, or you took the high deductible health plan because that premium fit more into your budget, but the actual having to pay the deductible is not necessarily, haven't planned for that because employees do stuff like that. Um, Removing that barrier to entry by making the the family doctor more easily accessible
Yeah.
is a huge shift. And I think that again, I think Penn Medicine is ahead of the curve with that. All these direct primary care providers are ahead of the curve. And again, it's a win-win-win. It's good for the employees. Seen cases where because the direct primary care, because these services, the primary care services are included in a flat monthly subscription, like the cost to self-funding is actually lower for the employee, and then the doctors like it because there's a limit to the number of patients that they actually have in their portfolio.
They can
It's like
dive
a
deeper.
third of what they would normally have, and this
Yeah.
is why they can spend actual time practicing medicine the way that they wanted to when they were in med school with their patients. And I think that is something. I think that's in technology and stuff. Sometimes we talk about the bottom of the hockey stick. I think direct primary care is the low end of the hockey stick. At some point, we're going to have a big shift, and a lot of primary care is going to go into that model.
I don't think any industry is safe from the subscription model.
um, yeah, probably not. Yeah,
I actually love that idea. I love the ability because right now getting in to see anybody is nearly impossible.
and it's not going
And
to get any better. Yeah.
Right. So they're actually carving out, which is probably going to make the other side even worse, if you're going to think about that. But um, having more than 20 minutes with a doctor would be amazing, especially when you really want to dive into something deeper. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it's actually the entrepreneurial side of me has thought to myself, you don't need to be a doctor to start one of these clinics. You need a doctor, but you don't need to. It sounds like I need to find a doctor. We need to open one up
There you go.
because from what I understand, they do. And then the doctor can focus on all the doctor stuff and they can handle all the business stuff. Once you're maxed out of subscribers, then you put people on a waiting list. And from what I understand, there's at least one or two clinics like that in Lancaster that filled up very quickly. Maybe they wouldn't feel like they need a partner, but and then there's a waiting list for getting. And I know folks who have normal health insurance that pay extra, like privately, to a direct primary care provider because they don't want to have the hassle of making sure they're in network. I mean, network's out the window. These direct primary
Yeah.
care doesn't take insurance. That's not insurance isn't involved at that point.
Mm.
So, and it's again from what I understand, it's like $75 a person, maybe $60 a person, maybe up to $100 a person. So if you have a family of four, it's not we're not talking about chump change here. I mean, there might be discounts or whatever, but like I said, the total cost to the employer in some of these cases because of what they were spending on primary care. And they managed to, it's cultural shift. So you have to you have to educate the employees and make sure that they know how they should be
Yep.
accessing care rather than going to everything. I mean, educating employees about their health insurance that's a battle that we're going to be fighting forever. But actually, I think health or mental health has done a pretty good job of this too, where there's the subscription model for mental health where you pay a monthly fee and you can talk to a therapist however
Yeah,
many
we have
times.
that.
And
We pay for
right,
all of our employees. They get it for free, for unlimited.
so it's like that. Only I'm
And it's
kind of
up to
cold
7
and I
other
don't know
family members. That's the
what's that.
crazy part. It's up to 7 other family members.
Yes. So yeah, direct primary care is a little bit more difficult with that as far as
Yeah, for
getting
sure.
the family, but the MDs I think are a little bit more than therapists.
Yeah.
So as far as costs go, and blood work and prescriptions, there's a lot that goes into it. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's it.
it's really cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. Um, that was everything I had, but I do want to give you a moment to like self promo. So, like, a couple of things I want to kind of talk about off base. You talked about when we met for breakfast about starting up a podcast yourself. Where are you at with that? Where's your mental state at with that?
My mental state is that I need to stop delaying. You offered to show me how this program works, and the other program, which I wrote down, but I don't remember what the other one is that you said is really good to make it easy. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned at the beginning, this is the first time that I've been interviewed. I did have a show that I just posted to Facebook because that's what I knew, and that was in 2019, and I stopped in 2020. So I had interviewed people in the past, but I've never been interviewed myself. And yeah, I need to get back into it, and we need to book some time where you can show me the nuts and bolts of how this works.
Yeah, I love.
Because making it easy, like cutting some of the time, I was editing in Adobe Premiere and putting it up, and
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't want to
lot
be
of
doing
work. You
that.
don't have to do that
Yeah,
anymore. AI takes care of most of that. So what's really cool is like I'm on Riverside. Once you're done, it'll pre-cut clips for you already based on the things they think are highlighted. But when you come to the actual episode, you can hit Magic Audio. It goes through and pulls. You can remove all the filler words. You can remove the spaces. It'll do that within minutes. And then
okay.
it probably takes me 20 minutes to edit an hour episode.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really
And
great.
then
And then,
there was another one that posted everywhere, I believe is the other piece of software that you mentioned and
yeah,
hosts it.
I don't remember. Oh, Buzzsprout. Yep. Yeah, that's where I upload it and then it sends it out to all the channels. But yeah, we can get. So if people want to ask you about that awesome subscription base you just talked about, which I'm very interested, actually have a deeper conversation around that. Where can people find you? Where can you? I mean, you're heavy on LinkedIn, but where's your go-to stuff?
Yeah, I would say messaging me on LinkedIn would be the best way to get my attention. You can actually, if you Google Nate Bunty, you will find me. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Nate Bunty that's online. Uh,
Bunty.
Bunty. Yes. Funny story about my last name. While I'm mentioning it, I'm the only
Yeah.
Nate Bunty. I used to sell workers' comp insurance for a near agency in Denver, Pennsylvania, and I would send out workers' comp based letters all over the central Pennsylvania. And I got a call, and I went out to a gas station that was owned by some Indian folks. And I asked them, I was like, why did you call? Because they weren't having anybody else quote. And they told me, they're like, well, we thought you were Indian. And I said, okay, why'd you think that? And they said that Bunty, which is an English name, it was very common. Where they're from in England, there were a lot of Bunties there. And I was like, I did not know that. In central Pennsylvania, in this area, if somebody's last name is Bunty, they are related to me whether I know it or not. But apparently there were a lot of Bunties in India, or at least where those guys were from. That
Yeah.
gas station is now Members First by Town Road
Interesting.
in Harrisburg. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that is pretty wild. Did you get the business?
I did. Yeah, no, we
Let's
insured them.
go.
Yeah.
The great story made a camaraderie moment or a partnership moment.
Yeah, well, it was, I mean, they were very nice, but they did say that they thought I was Indian. And then the other thing that we did to be insurance is fun, you know. We were able to insure the gas in in the tanks somehow, with Erie at the time. We had a really good relationship with an underwriter that I think did things that they should not have done necessarily. But yeah, for whatever reason, they wanted to have a policy actually on the fuel.
Hmm.
And she was able to do it on an inland marine, like property out in the open type of policy. I don't know if it was necessarily the cheapest rate, but it was something that other folks weren't doing for them, and we got that done back then.
Yeah, we get into similar stuff. If we have big jobs and we have to pre-buy a bunch of steel, right? They'll want us to have a higher insurance policy for that because you're carrying a lot of stock for the job on the premises. So yeah, we run into some. I mean, obviously not the same exact example, but something similar.
Right, right. And you can have like well, it's inland marine. So a lot of times if you're gonna have, and I'm not sure if it matters, you probably have a lot of stuff like out in the yard. And again, property in the open, I think is an inland marine um endorsement onto a property form. But
Gotcha.
and seasonal increase, and I mean, there are 1,000 ways when you're talking about property insurance and some other stuff. There are 1,000 different ways to insure stuff like that. So, like
Yeah.
I don't know, the what was the joke? Lloyd's of London. I'm pretty sure Jennifer Lopez, I think, had a policy on her butt. You know what I mean? So anything's insurable as long as you're willing to pay for it, and it's considered an asset. So that's right.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for coming on and having a conversation. Thank you for allowing me to go into some personal stuff and some stuff when you were a kid too, because I think it's really it's interesting, and people need to understand, like, there's like, you sell insurance, which doesn't sound, as you said, super fun, but it is. But there's a lot of stories behind that you can bring a lot of context to, even just preventative stuff, understanding, going and get checked out, what you went through as a child, being first to some things, and operational stuff. It's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. It was fun to be on the other side of the microphone, I guess, to a certain
Yeah, how'd that
extent.
feel? Weird?
I was a little weird, yeah, because well, when you this is another thing that I'm going to just tell another story about my kids. My son, mentioned he plays golf and he plays baseball and he likes to pitch, so he's a pitcher. That's one of his favorite things. He did not like soccer, and he was okay in soccer until they started scrimmaging, and not every kid had a ball. So as soon as he had to compete for the ball, he didn't like that because he needs to be in control. And that's
Interesting.
something that I think he got from me. So being on the other side and not necessarily knowing what was coming, I was sweating a little, but it went okay. I
Good.
think I think I did all right.
You did amazing. Yeah, it's all just people talking about their passion. So there's no wrong answer to any of that. So I appreciate you coming on, being so honest. Do you have anything else for the folks before we go?
I don't think so. Like I said, if they have any other questions for me, if you Google Nate Bunty, unless you find somebody in India, it's me.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll catch you in the next episode.